Hi, everyone. Welcome to First and North. My name is Luke Cadellis at Fox 32 in Chicago. Joining me this week on First and North, let's bring in the crew. The voice of the Lions, Dan Miller from Fox Detroit, and from Fox Milwaukee, Brandon Cruz. Fox Minneapolis sitting this one out this week. NFL three-game preseason schedule ends this week as well. Vikings are in Tennessee Friday night. Bears are in Kansas City Friday night as well. Packers host the Seahawks, and the Lions battle with the Texans in Detroit. Both of those games are Saturday afternoon. All right, let's get an update on each of our teams coming off of their second preseason game. And I'm going to start right here in Chicago, if you guys don't mind, because the Bears and the Bills was under the primetime lights on Fox Sunday night. We all saw it, and at least here in Chicago, let me brag a little bit, most of the fans and media kept saying, it's only the preseason. Dan, it's only the preseason. Brandon, it's only the preseason. Hey, Bears absolutely manhandled the Bills 38-0 in that game. By the way, the Bears had not scored that many preseason points in a game in a long time, 26 years, and it was just the second time they pitched a shutout in a preseason game since 1994, 31 years. Simply the most lopsided preseason shutout by any NFL team in almost 2 years. And it doesn't count. I need to remind everyone that the Bears went undefeated in the preseason. You guys are laughing, but it's true. And Dan and Brandon, I remind people, the last couple of days I've said, listen, I hate to bring it up, but the Bears went undefeated in the preseason last year, and one of their wins was at Buffalo, 33-6, and we know how last year finished, 5-12. Why is this year different? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I saw progress from quarterback Caleb Williams, and so did everyone else.
He was flawless when it comes to what you wanted to see. No one wanted to say, man, I don't know if Caleb's is athletic enough to go run around and make plays in the league. But it was, holds the ball too long, doesn't really get the ball out on time, is constantly, hitching in the pocket, not seeing it and trusting it and letting it go. That wasn't the case last night. And there was a confidence, there was a conviction, overwhelmingly hopeful and confident, impressed by what I saw last night from Caleb, and just that coaching matters.
Yeah, Dan Orlovsky, a former quarterback on this level. Caleb looked in control. 2 series against Buffalo's backups on defense. Yes, he played with conviction, though. He was poised, moved through his progressions, and here's what I liked most, guys. Caleb played fast. Not once did he break the huddle with fewer than 19 seconds on the play clock. I watched. He released the ball in less than 3 seconds on his throws during the 92-yard opening touchdown drive. Last season, this is a guy, Caleb Williams, whose average time to throw the football was over 3 seconds, 3.13 seconds, 4th longest in the NFL. And he had 44 dropbacks where he held onto the football for 5 or more seconds. That was a quarterback who was not sure where to go with the football last year. And yes, in my opinion, coaching is already helping Williams improve his game. Before we move off the Bears, I need you guys to check out this picture of Ben Johnson during Sunday night's game. Caleb Williams jokingly complimented Johnson for being calmer during the game than he is at practice. The guy had plenty to smile about in the end. Dan Miller, you spent time with Ben Johnson. You warned me about Ben Johnson. You said the man is intense, and we have found out in a hurry you are correct.
Yeah, he is. Look, he has a way that he wants things done. And if it's not done that way and he gives you the opportunity to do it, you're going to hear about it. Ben Johnson is somebody who will light up a practice field very quickly with very colorful language. He will get your attention. And he's a heck of a football coach. And I think you may have yourself a really good head football coach. And look, we can make jokes about being excited about a preseason game. But if the option is that he's going to go out there and struggle, or he's going to go out there and look really good, I'll take him going out there and looking really good. Now, we all understand that what happens in September is what really counts. But, I mean, look, this is, again, we've used this word before, it's about hope. And you're hoping that this is a sign of progress for him. And as I've talked about before, this relationship is a really fascinating thing to follow because in many ways, Ben is tied to Williams and Williams is tied to Ben. So I just think it's a lot of fun, and I think it intrigues people greatly to see how it happens, because you have a possible great head coach, the hottest guy in the league for the past couple of years, and a #1 overall pick. It's the kind of stuff that makes for great viewing in the NFL.
Hey, man, you're right. It beats the alternative. I know that you yourself and the Lions have lived through it as well, where you go undefeated during the preseason and then winless in the regular season.
We did that.
I know.
We were excited going into the regular season. We were crushing people in the preseason.
It's unbelievable.
We were 4-0.
No, hey, listen, I know some of the Lions playmakers. I need to get into it with you. They were watching the Bears and their former offensive coordinator Sunday night. Listen in.
Watching a fellow Trojan, Caleb, watching Ben, watching the offense operate.
What's your takeaway?
I mean, it looked good. It looked good.
It's funny watching like the same plays like we ran work. It's funny.
Same plays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully, it only looks good for
exactly
2 more weeks.
Just for 2 more weeks. And then I mean, Dan's saying you're out for blood. That's what he said. You're out for blood.
That's what he said.
You're wearing. Didn't you wear like a Green Bay Sucks hoodie too?
I
love.
have no idea.
Hey, Dan, you know the plays. I mean, did you have a chance to watch the game? Did it look eerily similar to what they run in Detroit or what they ran in Detroit last year?
Yeah, because it looks successful, and that's what Ben Johnson did in Detroit. He scored points and moved the ball up and down the field. And look, these two franchises now are going to be tied together because of Ben Johnson going from Detroit to Chicago. And you can also say Chicago is going to be tied to Green Bay, because I'm guessing the Packers would probably like to get a piece of him after he took a shot at LaFleur during his opening press conference. So, look, this all makes for wonderful theater, and that's what we're here for. We're here to be entertained. We're here to win, and that's what teams are hoping for. And this is going to be a lot of fun. And Ben Johnson being in Chicago and Caleb Williams being the quarterback there and maybe being great or maybe not being great is what makes it all worth talking about.
I love it. The NFC North in the preseason, alive and fighting. All right, I want you to talk about the Lions. By the way, we're going to talk about it later on, but I'm told that Ben Johnson told the media today that he is going to play the starters at Kansas City in the final game on Friday. We'll get to that again later on. I want to talk about the Lions. Isaac Tesla getting some snaps with the first-team offense? Tell me, Dan.
Yeah, well, part of that has been that Tim Patrick was down, and part of that is the fact that Isaac Tesla has just been terrific since he walked in the door. Now, look, this is a guy that they drafted in the 3rd round, and they gave up multiple 3rd-round picks to get, 2 3rd-round picks for next year. And that's a lot of capital to give up for a receiver that a lot of people didn't have going that high. But Brad Holmes said, not only did we want to go get him, he was my favorite receiver in the draft. Not my favorite receiver in the 3rd round of the draft, my favorite receiver in the draft. So he put a lot behind the selection of Isaac Tesla. And this guy has been really good. And he's physical, he blocks, he'll take on tacklers, he can run by you, he's got size, he knows how to use his body for a contested catch. So he has certainly been one of the stories of training camp, and absolutely now I think, whereas maybe you went into this season thinking that he's a stash guy that you're probably going to see more of in a year or two, with the way that he's played and the type of target that he presents for Jared Goff, I think people are now looking at it and saying, you know what, add him to the list of weapons on this team, and he can be somebody that can help you now.
I heard he's also looking forward to making the Lambeau leap when they play the Packers. We'll talk about that. After that,
at your own risk.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, forget about the loss to the Dolphins. I don't care. Doesn't count. We're hearing the defense looking real good with Aiden Hutchinson back. True?
Yeah, and the defense has been a part of the story. And the defense, in particular, in that first day against Miami, did a great job of just shutting them down. So, look, there are questions about this defense. Getting Aiden back is huge, but I think the rest of that defensive line with Noah Lee McNeil, can Marcus Davenport stay healthy and be a factor at the other defensive end position? Secondary's changed a bit from last year, should be one of the strengths of the team, frankly. But I think people want to see it. They've been really good against the run for a couple years. They've had trouble stopping the pass. They have not been great at getting the quarterback on the ground. But everything we've seen this preseason has told us that this defense is ready to take a step up. So, look, if they can do that, coupled with the expectations for this offense, it maybe allows you to take that step that you haven't been able to take the last couple of years and go deeper in the playoffs and realize your dreams ultimately. But go back to what I said earlier, Lou. It's the preseason. We're not game planning for anybody yet, and they're not game planning for us. But if your option is looking like Swiss cheese versus looking like you can stop somebody and be a factor, you're going to take that factor every time.
Absolutely. Hey, Brandon, jump in. Packers joint practice with the Seahawks this week. Jordan Love had thumb surgery last Thursday. Back practicing Monday of this week. How did he look?
Well, he didn't do a lot. He was very limited, of course, but they wanted to get him involved, and they wanted to keep him doing things that he can do because it's a surgery on his non-throwing hand with the thumb on his left hand. So he was able to work on individual drills. He's able to do 7-on-7. He had a great pass today in that on Tuesday. So he's looking sharp. He's there, and he's also been involved. I mean, last week they had joint practices with the Colts in Indianapolis, and despite having the surgery earlier in the week, he was out there with the team. He was still going through everything, at least in mental reps, and being there with the guys, being able to talk to Malik Willis, being able to talk to receivers and see how things go. So he's very involved right now, and he's doing what he can, but what they're trying to avoid is any other injury to that thumb as a setback. They want him ready for opening week against the Lions, and they're taking it very cautiously. Now, one of the things that Matt LaFleur had said in the past, he's not a big fan of 7-on-7 drills, but this week he has implemented more of that, so Love does get more work. Malik Willis, though, has been taking the snaps with the number ones during the team drills, and that's something you're going to expect to see on Thursday when Seattle comes to Green Bay for joint practices, as well as the game on Saturday at Lambeau Field.
Well, how about Love? Will he be part of Thursday's joint practice? And is there any chance that he plays in the exhibition game against Seattle Saturday?
I would say no and no. Now, Matt LaFleur has not made that official, but he was very, very explicit about not getting him hurt and not banging that thumb around and not putting him at risk. So, to me, that means he won't be part of the joint practice, and he definitely won't be playing in the preseason. It sounds like Malik Willis is going to get the most snaps for the first team on Saturday, and then as well as in the joint practice. So I think they're just making sure Jordan Love is as close to 100% as he can be when things open up for real.
Real quickly, Brendan, I'm sorry that I interrupted you there for a second. Is there anything specifically that you need to see from Jordan Love at this point in exhibition play?
I don't think they do. I think they know what they have. Of course, they want him to get more reps, and they want him to work with Matthew Golden specifically because of being a rookie. But with that being said, if that's really the only issue, they had the whole offseason program. They had early training camp, and those two are still able to talk and be around each other. It's just a matter of trying to get that timing down and figure out how each other work well together. And I think that's the only real concern that you're seeing with the Packers right now is his relationship with Matthew Golden on the field. Off the field, there's no concern there. They're not worried about any of that. But that would be the only drawback of him not being able to go right now and throughout the preseason games.
All right, and regarding the Vikings, Justin Jefferson on the practice field for the first time in 25 days to start the week. That's good news in Minnesota. Bad news for the rest of the NFL. We need to take a timeout when we come back on First and North. Two of the NFL's top pass rushers could be traded the next 2 weeks. How would Trey Hendrickson look at a Bears uniform, maybe a Lions uniform? Man, he would look awesome alongside Aiden Hutchinson. Micah Parsons in Green Bay, are you kidding me? We are going to discuss next here on First and North. Welcome back to First and North. Lou Canellis with you at our Fox 32 studios in Chicago, joined by Dan Miller at Fox in Detroit, and from Fox Milwaukee, Brandon Cruz. Brandon, if the Cowboys decide to trade pass rusher Micah Parsons, I can't believe I heard this. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. Number one, I don't think the guy is getting moved. I don't think he's getting traded. I don't care what anyone says about the drama going on between Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons. But the NFL Network's Ian Rappaport thinks Green Bay may be the perfect spot for Parsons.
I would expect the Packers would be among the teams really interested. Okay.
They have paid Jordan Love. They have a bunch of really good young players, but they haven't. There's some guys like Quay Walker they have not paid. Zach Tom they paid, but they have money to spend, and they are really good. And so like that's the kind of team that I would say if Micah was going to be traded that he'd be going to, because it's like we need one final piece. This guy is an absolute dog. He's worth all the money, so pay him all the money. I mean, God only knows what Mulugeta would make that contract. It'd be all of it. But it'd be worth it because you'd get Micah Parsons.
I can't even allow myself to think that this potentially could happen. But I get it. Parsons has a relationship with Jordan Love. I'm told they've traveled to Dubai together. They share the same agent. Actually, Parsons has the same agent as a couple of Green Bay Packers. I never thought the Packers would sign Hall of Famer Reggie White back in, the early 90s. I remember that time. What are the chances of Green Bay swinging a deal for Parsons, Brandon?
I think, like you said, it's probably pretty remote, but that is where their need is. I mean, this is a team that needs to improve their pass rush. They need an edge rusher to really be dominant, and we haven't seen that in Green Bay in the last couple of years. Now, they do feel that the players they have right now have made steps forward. Rashawn Gary, after the joint practice with the Colts, was talking about how much havoc each guy was creating, and he listed everybody, including the ball boy, it seemed, about being able to create havoc against the Colts offense. Now, again, it's a joint practice with the Colts, and then when the game came by, they only get one sack of the Colts. So that's what they're trying to improve, is their ability to get to the quarterback. And if there was any way that they could bring in Micah Parsons, that might put them over the top to be one of those teams that would be considered a favorite to get to the Super Bowl, just because that is maybe their biggest need at this point. But in reality, is this something that they'd be able to do? I don't know. I don't know if this is something that you can see Brian Gutekunst really pulling the plug on. But you mentioned it. They have a history of bringing in key free agents here and there over the years that have had huge impacts. Think of what Charles Woodson did to this team when he came and helped lead them to a Super Bowl all the way back in 2010. So this is one of those things that this is the kind of player they would like. But are they really going to make that deal? I would say it's a less than 50% chance, but Packers fans would be delighted to have Micah Parsons lining up on that field on the opposite side of Rashawn Gary.
All right, let's make this clear. Any team would be delighted to have Micah Parsons wearing their uniform. Dan, let me bring you in because we just got finished talking about how good that Lions defense is. But, Bengals pass rusher Trey Hendrickson also demanding a trade right now, says he and the Bengals are close to agreeing on a total average annual salary and the length of the deal, but the Bengals are only willing to guarantee the first season. Hey, the Bears are one of those teams rumored to be interested in Hendrickson. I think the guy's terrific, four-time Pro Bowler, set to make $16 million this season, led the NFL with 17.5 sacks last year and in 2023. But he's going to turn 31 years old this fall, and I don't think the Bears should trade away draft capital or put another $16 to $20 million into a defensive lineman. And they decided to invest in Dayo Adeyingbo at an average of $16 million a season. And they're still paying Montez Sweat $24.5 million, and Grady Jarrett's now in town at $14.5 million. It's a lot of money already invested in the D-line. Is there any room, Dan, for Hendrickson or Parsons with the Lions?
I got to think it would be tough. Look, it is a source of conversation around here because you're talking about game-changing players that change your franchise if you have the ability to get them. But there's just so much coming up that has to be done on that salary cap here in Detroit. They've already paid a bunch of guys. Aiden Hutchinson is up next. Brian Branch isn't far behind him. You've got to still pay Jahmyr Gibbs. You've got to still pay Jameson Williams. There's a number of guys that they have at the top or near the top of their position group. They've already reset the safety market. They've already reset the receiver market at a moment, and then Amon-Ra got passed by a couple other guys. So it's like Aiden Hutchinson is going to get $40 to $45 million a year. Hendricks is going to get probably 38 to 40, 35 to 40, $42 million a year. Parsons isn't going to settle in behind anybody. He's going to be $40 million plus. I just don't know how you pay all these guys. In a fantasy world, it's a wonderful thing to think about. If you could do it for 1 year and then say, okay, we're just going to take a 1 year run at this thing, and then cut him loose and he goes and finds money elsewhere. But they're not going to come someplace for 1 year. They're going to go someplace where they're going to be signed to a multi-year contract that is going to make them among the highest paid edge rushers in this league. And I just don't know how you fit that in Detroit with all the guys that you've already paid and all the guys that you have to pay coming up.
Give me 1 minute, Dan, on what position you'd like to see the Lions get better at.
Oh, I would love to have Hendrickson or Parsons, make no doubt about it. If you could give me somebody that is a dominant pass rusher on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, good luck dealing with that if you're the opposition, with Aleem McNeil coming back and DJ Reader in the middle of that defense and Tyleik Williams the number 1 pick. Look, that's stuff that dreams are made of. But right now, if you're asking my concerns in the realistic world, what's that middle of that offensive line going to look like? That's a huge question for this team, and one we won't be able to answer until we get to Green Bay to begin with, and then it will unfold after that to open the regular season. But that's the questions, Lou, for this team are, in fact, on that defensive line and in the middle of that offensive line. Other than that, backup quarterback, but you lose Jared Goff, you're going to be in a lot of trouble anyway. I think this team feels really good about most of their roster right now, and they feel like they've got the answers to the questions at the spots that we might think are up for grabs.
All right, we need to take our final timeout. What is something that's underrated in life? Think about it, boys. We're going to ask the Packers and Brandon and Dan right after this on First and North.
Digging in your ear with a Q-tip, that's the best.
Q-tip, that feel good when you get it, get it in there. You got a Q-tip in your ear.
Sleep. I'm gonna go with number 1.
Sleep, for sure. When you finally get something out your tooth, like after it's been stuck in for a while, like a piece of popcorn, oh my God.
Like elementary school, and you were like doing like crayons and drawing stuff, and then you were able to draw and like color in everything without going over your line.
I don't know where that one was going. Sleep, I appreciate what the guys are saying because we don't get enough of it during the football season. Luke Ellis, Brandon Cox, and also Dan Miller from Detroit. Last couple of minutes here on First and North. Let's hope Ben Johnson turns his team around so people aren't sleeping during Bears games in this town anymore. Brandon, what do you appreciate most?
I have to agree with most of those guys. Sleep. You and I were talking before this about you were up early doing a hit on TV. I don't do those early mornings well. The more sleep I can get, the better I can be, and that means later I can play golf in the afternoon, not a morning golfer. So anything that to me allows more sleep and more rest is completely underrated.
Dan, you don't get enough sleep at this time of the year. You're doing everything.
No, I don't, but I got to agree with the guy that said floss when you have something stuck in your teeth because you're driving in your car thinking, man, I wish I had a piece of floss. But I'll give you this one, Lou. Couches that recline. I will never buy a couch that doesn't recline for the rest of my life. With our last two we've had due, and my wife and I look at each other and we're like, how did we ever live without this?
I love that one. That is a real good one, Dan. I can imagine the next 20 years, Dan Miller retired, sitting up there feeling the belly, comfortable on his recliner. As always, great show as always, boys. I'm Luke Ellis for Dan Miller and Brandon Cox. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week right here on First and North.